Welcome to my channel. In this video, I will show you a very beautiful piece of software called LittleNavMap. LittleNavMap is a very comprehensive software, free of charge, and is used for flight planning and the entire aviation. Not only it is an amazing piece of software, but it's also completely free. When I say free, it's not like there is a subscription where you have a free version and then paid version. No, this is a completely open source software available for Windows, Mac, and Linux. So you can find it and install it on your computer and just use it. In this video, I hope to show you the functionalities. I will not cover everything because it's a very comprehensive piece of software, but at least I will give you the essentials so that you can download it, install it, play with it, and enjoy its functionalities, whether you are into aviation or simulation, or you are just somebody who have a hobby of looking at maps in this kind of aviation industry. So this could be seen as it's a GIS, graphical information system for aviation. Now, as you can see here, after we install LittleNavMap, the installation is quite simple. You just download the exe file, zip, just install it and then run it. You come here, very simple. My advice to you is the first impression you may have is after installing it that you will have a very crowded map. So you will say, you may feel overwhelmed. So immediately come here and turn off all the layers on top of the map. And once you turn them off all, you'll see a very clean map. And then gradually you can learn about each one of those and turn it on and off and experiment about what it does. Later on, you can experiment with what's inside the menus here. I will cover them quickly. Maybe I will read them, but they are quite straightforward. So learn about the software a feature at a time, and then you will really love it. It's very, very amazing. Now, instead of just talking about it, let's explore. So I will cover here this first part, which is window, which is this one actually, which is I select the kind of map I want to see. Okay, and first of all, the map layout, there are two main styles. One is this, which is called spherical map, and this is the Mercator one, which is seeing the world as a flat surface. For the sake of this demonstration, I will use the spherical one because it looks awesome and I like it more. Now here you have different maps than the ones with a star are extras that you can, they need a kind of a account with a specific company. So this is designed to show you some built-in maps. And because there are specialized organizations or companies that provide maps, you can go to those companies, create an account, they give you an API link, and then you include it in here, and then you will be able, when you select those with a star, you will be able to use a third-party map. And this is very beautiful, very nice. So now let me start to show you those very quickly, and then we can settle on one of those maps for our demonstration. Now, this demonstration, to make it very much relevant and nice and useful, I will use a scenario about airports and flight planning. And while doing that, I think you can see the functionalities built inside the software. So this one, which is here like cartoon dark mode. So this is if you are working at night and you don't want to see a lot of lights. It's very beautiful. Okay, peaceful way to look at the maps and use it. The second one is similar, but it is like not dark mode. It is day or night day mode. So as you are gonna see here, the maps are very detailed, all of them. Now the third one here is from MapTier. So this is, again, I went to this website. So when you install the software, you get a link here. When you open it, tells you, oh, you need to go to that company, create an account and reference it. I'm not paying any money in here. All those accounts, either they are completely free or you may need to put a credit card, because those companies, some of them, they sell based on the number of hits on their API. So because I'm a single user here, a hobbyist, I will not exceed the free tier, so that I completely using these features for free. This is another one, which is from a company called Mapbox. I think this is the only one that you need to put a credit card. And as you can see here where we start to get very professional, because those maps are being sold. You can subscribe for these maps as a software development company, and then you can use them for your solutions in case you are developing any solution that requires maps. On top of this, now this is a satellite view, very beautiful. Okay, and you can see here even the color scheme is based on the elevations. This is another version with the streets. Okay, so if I zoom here, you can see that there are even the streets that are included on top of the satellite view of the maps. Okay, so yeah, let's see here, see how much of details we have in these type of maps. So this is the Palm Jumeirah in Dubai, and you can see how much details these maps have, with even labels. Very, very beautiful maps. Okay, and then imagine now we're gonna be exposing layers on top of those and fly. All right, so stay tuned. You'll see a lot of interesting things here. Here you can go to Mapbox, create your own style of map and use it here. I did not create, I mean, I think those are sufficient for my purpose. So this is another one, which is OpenStreetMap. So this is a default map. Again, very beautiful. Straightforward and very detailed as well. And this is another one here, which is with the topology of the elevations. So you can see here the Rocky Mountains and the temperature style. And here, this is another one with terrain. And this is from another company called Thunder Forest Atlas. So it's okay. And the last one here I will show you is this one, which is landscape. So I think I'm gonna keep this one here for our purpose and start the planning phase. All right, so as you can see, I'm seeing the entire planet, and let's start to show data related to aviation. Now let's zoom a little bit. So this is Europe, and here this is the United Kingdom. If I zoom further, this is London, and zoom further. Okay, and let's start by clicking on this. So this will show me the airports available. So if I zoom out quickly here, you see these are now all the airports in the world. Okay, so you notice the moment you start to click on something, you start to see how much data is available on so all these are the available airports. So this is why don't try to click on showing you a lot of data while you are exploring an outside view of the software. Try to zoom to the area that you are interested in. Okay, and then start to enable specific features. Now some maps depends on how much details they have. They may be faster or slower than others, but in general, if you have a good computer that you use for flight simulation, of course it will be very powerful. It can run on any computer that is decent, like an i7 computer. Now let's enable again the airports. Now, of course, there are even variations of what type of airports you can have. These are the concrete surface type of airports. And what is this airport in here? We are very familiar with. It's Heathrow Airport. It's very famous, of course, and very crowded airport. As you can see, this is Heathrow Airport, and we can see two main runways. This is runway and this is another runway. What are those numbers in here? This is 27L, this is 27R, because these two runways are parallel. 27, this is a naming convention for a certain airport, does mean it is 270 degrees from the magnetic north. And this is 09, this means it is 90 degrees, okay, from the magnetic north. Because of course there will be a 180-degree difference between this side and that side. The L is for the left and the R is for the right. If a certain runway is even more complicated, that has 3 runways, they may name them left, center, and right. It's very interesting. So they make them simple so that if an aircraft is coming to land, they say, okay, you're giving permission to land on 27L. So the pilot with very common knowledge, they should know the left from the right. Because of course, landing on the wrong runway is very catastrophic, as you can imagine. Now, how a certain airport like this functions now. This is interesting. So assume you are on this airport and then you want to take off. So let's see how LittleNavMap can help us. So if we right click in here and we can say, show information for this airport, which is already in here, or if you even double click on it. So you see here to the left, this is the Heathrow Airport. It's in Europe. It is 83 feet above the ground. It is the transition altitude, so which is normally if somebody wants to come and land on this airport, the transition around the airport is around 6,000 feet. And this is the coordinates of the runway. The longest runway. So this is a quick information so that if someone is flying close by, got an emergency, so they can have immediate information about the runway. The longest runway is 12,000 feet. It's quite long, of course. And the width is 164 feet, etc. And this is its heading. The tower frequencies are those ones. Okay, that's quite interesting. Now, once I double clicked on this, you notice to the right in here, I've got all the procedures. What does it mean, procedures? So in case I want to come and land in Heathrow, or I want to use it as a departure from Heathrow, I need to use one of the following procedures. And those procedures cover, as we can see in here, cover the arrival and the departure. And they are also grouped by the technology that could be used for landing or, a departure as well. Now, don't overwhelm here. This is just a complete list. It's very nice to see it this way. So as you can see here, this is SID stands for Standard Instrument Departure. And then here we have a standard arrival. And then here we have different approaches like ILS, Instrument Landing System, etc. Now I can see I can just filter this selection, and let's focus, because we said we were going to decide, we're going to think about how we can leave the airport. So let's see only the departures now. So as you see, to depart from Heathrow, you have the following procedures. And if I, example, select this, now what you can see in here is, okay, I'll zoom out slightly. So they tell you, if you want to depart from this runway, which is 09L, you must go, if you adapt this type of procedure, this is the name, BPK, because it ends with this specific waypoint in the sky. And then I will talk about this. So you have to take off from here, immediately go left after the runway, and then you have to obey with the rules with regards to something called airspaces. So at every point in here, there are rules, which is how much your elevation of the aircraft should be or must be. And then you notice here, for example, this is the this is the airspace A, and then you must be 3,000 feet and above. So normally they have a line that you can see which indicate the minimum altitude at a certain point. And of course, all of these are designed to avoid conflict between arrivals and departures, and of course to have kind of highways so that aircrafts leave and come with efficient way without, of course, any possibility for collisions. And you notice here 4,000 feet, 6,000 feet, and then the end of this departure procedure ends in this point. And in here, of course, aircrafts can follow more routes. So an aircraft now may decide to come back in here because they are at a certain altitude and they got the permission to fly certain airspace, so that they decide to go in a different directions based on their, of course, flight plan. Now, this is, of course, one standard instrument departure, and this is another one. And each one you notice here, they are meant for every runway. So if you want to take off from runway 09R, these are the additional ones as well. Okay, and of course, the management of the airport, ATC, they assign for every aircraft leaving the airport, okay, a certain departure procedure. And the departure procedure, of course, they are inserted inside the navigation system in the aircraft, and even the autopilot can be used to completely go these ways. Now, it perhaps a good opportunity to explain what is this circle in here. Okay, so as you can see, maybe an aircraft is departing this runway, which is 27R, this way, and they take off, and then they climb, and they come here to 2,000 to 5,900 feet, I guess, and then they go left, and then they go left again, and then they now assume a certain aircraft might say, well, I was not following completely the procedure because I'm an old aircraft and I did not know how to fly it accurately. So they assign to the end of this thing. What is this? So let's talk a little bit about this. This is an antenna here. Okay, and if we come here and we see, this is what's called a VOR station. So this station actually has an antenna and it transmits signal in all directions, and aircraft can tune to that one, and they will be able to, if it is a VOR DME, then they will be able to know the direction and also the distance to this station. Okay, now if I right click on it and this is show information for this, you notice here its name is VOR DME. DME means it enables also the access to the distance between where the aircraft is and the station. And if we look here to the left, this is called type high. This means high power. And the frequency used for the aircraft to connect to it is 107.3 megahertz. Now pay attention to this. 117.3 megahertz means the wavelength. So this is the frequency. It oscillates as 117, very close, by the way. This is if you listen to FM radio. FM radio ends with around 108 megahertz. And this one is higher. This is why, of course, the radio stations are completely prohibited from having bad antennas. So that because they can jump higher on the frequencies and they can interfere with those aviation booked frequencies. So here the wavelengths is around 2 meters. So what does it mean? Those stations, they can transmit, long distances, like as you can see here. The range is 130 nautical miles. 130 nautical miles, every 1 nautical mile, for those who want to remember, is around 1.8 kilometers. So talk about here even more than 200 kilometers. This one can transmit. However, this is very critical that there should be a point of sight between the aircraft and the station. And because, of course, the aircraft is in the sky, there's supposed to be a direct point of sight with this station. Why? Because the wavelength is only around 2 meters, and 2 meters cannot interfere. So if you are behind a certain mountain, you are flying low, maybe you will not be able to interfere or to find or connect to this specific VOR DME station. Are those stations the only way for navigation? Definitely not. Most aircrafts today use the GPS, which of course the aircraft connects to the satellites, similar to what you use on your car today. Great. So this is a little bit now about how aircrafts leave the airport and depart and take certain procedures to leave the airport. Now, all this planning in here, we can use it using LittleNavMap. Because now when I finish this demonstration, I will show you how we can connect using and do a simple flight using LittleNavMap. And what's so beautiful is when I fly it using my flight simulator, I will be able to see an aircraft icon on the map flying. And this is really, really awesome. It's not like a dry piece of software. No, when you finish, as we mentioned, the flight plan and you want to execute it using your aircraft, you will be able to see your flight on the map. All right, now as you can see, this is the standard instrument departure 27R, and once I add it to my flight plan, if I want to use Heathrow as my departure, you notice here it adds the following points automatically. And those points here has the restrictions on terms of which airspace I need to fly and at what elevations. Okay, very, very interesting. Now let's cover, instead of if I want to take off, or I want to use Heathrow not for for departure, but of course for landing. So I will come here and let me see what kind of arrival procedures do I have. Now, in terms of arrival, let me see all arrivals first. So you can see here, these are the standard instrument, sorry, these are the arrivals, yeah. Yeah, and you see these are standard instrument arrivals, and if I want to arrive to the airport, again, it looks similar, but of course very different. So I come to this point first, and then I need to fly this. And you notice here how they made that easy. So if an aircraft can tune to this VOR station, and there will be here like no risk of deviating outside, so they can fly straight to this VOR. And once they come to this VOR, it will be easy for them to come to this second VOR, and then they will arrive in here. Now, why, and then after this, why this ends in here, but here is the airport. So this route is referred to as the arrival. Now, this arrival brings you to this point, and then there will be a procedure for landing. And the procedure now from this point, it can be either like you come this way or you come this way. But these are two separate things. One of them is referred to as the arrival, and the second one is called the approach for landing. So let's give an example. Okay, if I select now all approaches, and then you will be able to see the approaches, which is when I arrive to a certain point, what kind of approach. So let me show you for simplicity here, the approach is related to a technology called ILS. Now, so the arrival will bring us to this point, and then from this point, the approach will take us from this point to landing. And there are, of course, multiple approaches for landing. So see, this is one, this is another one, this is another one. So you see, this is like so I come here through what we refer to as the arrival. So this is my arrival point. So it's like very simple, 2 steps, not only 1 step to land in an airport. So how you arrive, and then when you arrive to a certain point around the airport, and then you come, okay, and then which is called a transitional point. And then later on, okay, there will be an approach for landing. So it's an arrival plus a certain approach for landing. So if we focus on this specific, not different from like the procedures for takeoff. So departure procedures, they are just one thing called departure. Takes you from the airport and pushes you outside to a certain location, and then you can continue. And then here the transition, as we mentioned, the approach for arrival. So, and you can see these are the points. Now, how does it work? How do I land? So, as we mentioned, then arrival come to a certain point, and then I use a specific approach for landing. That approach, assume here I'm using this, which is called Instrument Landing System, ILS. So if I enable this, because there are specific ways. Now, ILS is a specific technology that works this way, simple. There is an antenna here at the end of the runway that transmits two signals. One, which is to help the aircraft calibrate its direction, which is left versus right, and this will help the aircraft align with the runway. Second one is to give the aircraft something referred to as a gliding slope, so that the aircraft can tune to that gliding slope, and normally it's like 3 degrees. If you see carefully down, and it's called the glide slope is 3 degrees. And then if the aircraft automatically connects with this gliding slope and it follows it, it can land automatically on the runway. And this is interesting, and it's not satellite again. This is based on an antenna here in the airport. This is why this is very accurate landing system, especially used in bad weather when the point of view is very, very low. So an aircraft can come and land on an airport even in ILS without even seeing the runway. Right, so this is how ILS works. Very, very interesting. In some videos I did before, I showed you how I do a complete ILS-based landing. Great, so nice. Now, of course, whether I'm doing a departure or an arrival, okay, then how do I fly in the sky? So again, coming back in here, so you can see in every parts of the word, I can turn off those. So here I'm seeing the airports and also the ILS approaches. Let me turn them off here so that I can have a map that looks cleaner. And these are also the VOR stations. I can also enable them. You see, I can see them all. And these are the DME, which are stations I can use to tune. I can fly to those DME stations, and I can have distance to those stations. Very interesting as well. So they complement each other. These two technologies are still there. They are not as good as or as comprehensive as following a GPS, but they are there as well for backup in case the navigation system from the satellites for any reason stops working. So aircrafts will not be able to, they will be able still to tune using those DMEs and VORs. Now, every VOR, as we talked about in here, it is it is what it has a certain frequency and it has a certain direction. So this is the 0 direction. It transmits at 360 degrees. If an aircraft is in here, it can tune to a certain angle, and then it will know how much is the angle from this VOR. If you have ever heard of the word triangulation, so if an aircraft is here, it can tune to 2 VOR stations, and using triangulation, it can know its exact position in the air, which is really amazing. Now, what frequency those VORs transmit is in megahertz, 109.4. This is 112.25. However, DMEs transmits using what frequencies? If you right click on this and say show information for it, you can see here it's transmitting on 410 kilohertz, very much lower. So this is called the medium wave. This is what all the radios used to, close to the old radios. Now, if you calculate the wavelengths for this frequency, we find that it's around 1,000 meters. What does it mean? So even though this one is lower in power, but what there is a very good advantage for DMEs is if an aircraft is low in altitude and there is a mountain 500 meters behind, so the aircraft is behind the mountain, it can still see the signal from this DME station, because the wavelength is way larger than 500 meters. It can cross through terrains. So DMEs are good for low flight navigations like VFR flying, and these ones, which are of course the VORs, are suitable for high flying. And these even can be sometimes designed to transmit to very high. So they have multiple complex antennas that even if the aircraft is at 50,000 feet, it can find its way. Okay, so this is now with regards to those VORs and DMEs. Okay, now let's turn those off to have even a cleaner map. Now, what is this? This is very, I think, interesting. And if we see this one here, when I click on it, okay, these are called waypoints in the skies. Now, if an aircraft wants to fly, each one of those is a waypoint. Like an aircraft might take from a certain airport, as we mentioned, and then the departure ends with a specific point. And then the aircraft will say, oh, I want to fly to that destination using this waypoint, and then I will go to this waypoint, and then this waypoint. So normally the approval from the airport comes in this way. I submit as an aircraft, they submit a complete flight plan, which has, a certain departure. Maybe the departure, they cannot decide on it, but maybe the ATC needs to, maybe sometimes they assign for them a different departure or different arrival. And then later on, they say, I'm going to fly on those here. Now, of course, when they are flying between countries, every time, every one of those, it has some guidelines. If I click on it, because this one, you notice here, region is in EB. So every waypoint in here, if it falls within a certain country, it will be under the management of that ATC within that country. So, but an aircraft, as we mentioned, its entire flight plan is about flying and using those waypoints. Why flying using those waypoints is very flexible and effective is because these are completely either they are VOR stations, but as you can see, if I enable VOR, most of them are not VOR, but they are waypoints in the skies, and we can tune to them using the satellite, using GPS. So if an aircraft flies from Dubai to Heathrow completely using a flight plan that connects through those waypoints, by using the GPS navigation, they can just completely follow those waypoints and go from the from the departure airport to the destination airport. So this is how these are like roads in the sky, and they are available in the database of all navigation systems. So you can say, oh, I want to fly to this point, and and some of those, they have restrictions as well. Some of them, they can be diversions, like when you come in here, you can move this way and that way. So all are designed in a way so that, of course, to manage traffic in airlines, and of course to avoid collisions. All right. It's very, very interesting. If you have any questions here, please put them in the comments so that I can go more, explore them for you. All right, so now let's turn off those points here and turn off. So you see here, if I turn on everything in the software, then you may stop being able to see that many things in here. Okay, now there are so many additional features in here on how we can see the map quickly. I will just quickly cover some of them. So as you can see here, I can see the sun shading. When I click on it and I zoom, I will be able to, based on a certain time zone, even I can see the day and night. I can turn it off. And then here I can see the weather information, weather and wind information directly on the map. So if I zoom even more, okay. So show me here wind, ground, and I can select a specific service. So here, this is the direction, and this is the amount indicated by those. Okay. So this is very interesting about wind. Okay, let me turn it off. And then this one is in here. Okay, it will be show airport weather icons. So I can see the icon for the weather. And this one is I can, of course, I can have a grid with the zones. And in here, show country and city names on map. Of course, it's a part of the map. And then here I can see the map grid. Yeah, very lovely. I think many people are, and this is while flying to give it a little bit of more life. Even though your flight simulator may have beautiful things inside like traffic, etc. But here you can have some AI simulated yacht, so that if you're flying over the sea, you can see yachts inside. Okay, now show online client and air. So if there are actually, you can connect to even softwares, and if you are a group of people flying, you can see each other's aircrafts. And if you are flying here, you can say a trail, which is very nice. So if you take off from a certain airport in here, you come here, and then you'll be able to see a trail for your aircraft. See here, show missed approaches. So of course, airports here, I did not talk in any airport. Every approach for landing, it will have a backup, of course, missed approach. So in case it cannot land, the missed approach is a part of the procedure for landing. Okay, now I think this is fine. You can just click on them. The rest people can just experiment with them. This is completely, I did not cover when I turn it on. Well, this is the complete airspaces now. You notice, so any area, especially over countries, it may belong to a number of airspaces. And those airspaces are the rules. Some of them are like completely no-fly zone, like flying is completely prohibited. You can imagine that maybe you will, if you try to fly, maybe you will have something very bad happening. So this is why, and there are some areas which are completely, more flexible for flying. And this, I will maybe cover them airspaces in a special videos. There are A, B, C, D until G. And aircraft, of course, need to take permissions, and every airspace gives a certain type of aircrafts. So an aircraft flying at 40,000 square feet over a certain country, it uses a certain airspace, and it takes special permissions, of course, from the ATC. But maybe it will be like straightforward pass over a certain country. But if you are flying very low, you need to take approval for a different airspace, and so this is why the management of flights inside the sky is done by splitting every country into its region into airspaces and saying this region is airspace A and B. So they might have multiple airspaces again. Everyone requires different permissions. And here the entire thing is about management of those airspaces. So I can just turn them all off. And I can say, show me airspaces that are class A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, as we talked about. For aviation, it's a lot to do with airspaces B, A, B, and C. They call this Charlie airspace, which is very high, etc. Now, for hobbyists using flight simulators, you can fly anywhere. Because your flight is, your aircraft is virtual. But of course, if you want to practice proper flying using the rules, you will, this software in fact helps you a lot in planning your aircrafts. Elevation is also very key, because if you are flying in regions where there are like mountains, you'll need to be able to fly over the mountains. This is why when they put regulations about flying rules in terms of elevation, they consider the terrains as well. And this software can help you completely plan your flight for terrains. Okay, now, of course, there are many additional softwares in here. I will just read the menu very quickly. So there is a lot of weather management, and there is a lot of aircraft management as well, because you may say, I'm flying using this aircraft, and then the software will know how much is the fuel consumption based on your flying habit and the type of aircraft, and there is a lot of fuel management type of thing. One aspect I want to show it to you is very, very beautiful and very useful. So assume I want to fly, let me see the airports in here. So this is, I think here, Abu Dhabi International Airport. So assume I want to fly direct from Abu Dhabi to Dubai. And this is here, Dubai International Airport. So I can say right click in here on this, and I can say measure distance from airport Abu Dhabi. And then you see, oh, very nice. So I can even go up and I come here, and if I see how much is the direct distance between Abu Dhabi and Dubai. So it's telling me Abu Dhabi International Airport to Dubai is the direction is 36 degree magnetic, and the distance is 63 nautical mile. This is the direct distance. Of course, aircrafts, they rarely fly direct. It's called vector, okay. But in case you want to know a certain distance between 2 points, and of course, once you plan your entire aircraft, which I will do this in a different video. So I will create another video on how to plan an entire flight and execute it using NAVMAP. I think this video, I will end it here. It gives a very beautiful overview about LittleNavMap, and what's so beautiful is you can just change the map, and you will see how everything will completely shifts to that map. Yeah, very beautiful. All right, so I hope you enjoyed watching this video. Please don't forget to subscribe, and if you have any questions, just put them in the comments, and in the next video I will come here step by step, select airports, and then select procedures for departure, select my destination. It's quite straightforward once you know this basic interface about NAVMAP and its functionalities. Fine, stay safe, and see you in next videos. Bye bye.